Call it.
I
Is
was so
that the
surprised.
best Origin-affected game we've seen in recent history?
That I can remember for sure. The quality, I've got to give a lot of credit to obviously both teams, but the Dolphins, they're a lot better than a lot of people thought. You know, there was at the start of the year they were sitting around the top four, and they were the top four for a long time. I think they were even fourth still going into this round, or maybe just below. But they are legitimate. Like, they've got a team. They probably don't have a huge fan base, which is why we don't hear as much noise about them. But they've got a good footy team up there.
Up until this point, the question keeps popping up: who in that top 8 are pretenders? Who's going to drop out? Who's going to come in? Right up until last night, I kept saying to people, the Dolphins are pretenders. The Dolphins will drop out of the 8. A couple of injuries will derail them. I take it back. I couldn't have been more wrong. The Dolphins, whilst I don't think they can win the comp, I think they're 1 or 2 stars short of winning a comp. I think they're a legitimate top 8 side. Look, maybe even a top 4 side. They're resilient. They can play without their stars. No Hammer, no Kafusi last night. No dramas. I would love to have seen this team with Flegler and
Gilbert.
Yeah. I think then, I don't know, maybe they're higher again. But Dolphins fans, I apologise. You guys are the real deal. Super exciting last night. One talking point I wanted to hit you with off the top scope.
Yep.
Trey Fuller. He's too good to be playing reserve grade. Where could he play if not in this Dolphins side? Is he just a backup, or does he need to play NRL at another club?
As good as he's gone, and I was watching him closely, and I watched him all the way through the game. He is so tough, mate, first of all. But for me, he's going to be a backup. He's going to be one of those guys that I don't think you can rely upon Trey Fuller week in, week out.
Okay.
We haven't seen it, so it sounds like a harsh thing to say, but there were times, and he doesn't shy away from contact one bit, but Melbourne were really focusing on trying to get him around the ruck, especially when he was caught on the defensive line. And like I said, he puts his body on the line. Whether he can do that for 27 rounds, I'm not too sure. But the way he carries the ball through the middle on the 4th tackle, which sets him up well for the kicking game, like I said, it's unbelievable. He's a little bit older now.
How old is he?
He's about 26, 27.
Is he?
Yeah, he's a journeyman, played a lot of Queensland Cup from memory. Maybe Brooksy can find that out for sure.
So he's well and truly done his apprenticeship.
He has, all right? He's been around, and he would have been one of those guys that played a lot of Queensland Cup, and everyone would have just looked and said the same thing as me. He's probably too small. He's never going to play first grade.
Yeah.
Kudos to him for playing first grade. I think there's a genuine spot there for him to continually back up Hammer, because I guess it was about 5 or 6 weeks ago when Hammer missed an extended period of time. He played about 3 or 4 games. I think they won 3 out of those 4. They were going really well. And they asked Jesse Bromwich about him, and Jesse said to him, this is what he said in the post-match. He said, oh, did you consider going somewhere else because you went so well last year and looking for a full-time spot? And he goes, no, I like the Dolphins. I like it here. I like the club. And he will be in that position where whenever Hammer is away on Origin duties or potentially injured, or maybe something else happens in the back line where Hammer is so versatile, he can cover so many different positions.
Yeah.
He can go back to fullback again, and Hammer plays centres or wing.
Brooks, you got an age for us?
Yeah, he's 27, so he was in the Broncos.
27?
Yeah, he was in the Broncos system. He was in their under-20 squad. Didn't make NRL, so the last 7 seasons he's been playing Queensland Cup for the Redcliffe Dolphins and got his chance with the NRL side.
Can I give you a couple of possible landing spots that I looked through the rosters last night, and this is what I came up with. The first one, the Raiders. Rappin has been doing a great job at fullback. I think he's a better winger. We saw Chevy Stewart on Thursday night. He's their future fullback.
Yep.
Will he be ready next year? I'm not sure. In the meantime, a Trey Fuller is a great fill-in. The Dragons, I think Sloan is their future fullback, but his form fades in and out during a season.
Been a lot better this year, but
been a lot better this year.
Can totally agree that he's had his moments, for sure.
Had his moments. The Eels, they keep tossing up with Gutherson.
Yep.
Do we want Gutherson at fullback? Do we want a, inverted commas, X factor? And the Rabbitohs. The Trell is their fullback at the moment. Again, maybe you rotate him in and out of fullback throughout a season to make sure he's peaking at certain times of the year. Wayne Bennett could do that. Or maybe between Latrell and Whiten, you rotate those two between centre and 5'8". We saw Latrell come into 5'8" the other week, and I actually loved him there. But, again, Trey Fuller, he says he's happy at the Dolphins. I want to see a player like that in first grade.
Yeah, it would be good to see. Do you think, because I've thrown this question, this has been raised a few times in the last couple of years with some of the talent that's actually not playing first grade. And you look at some of the teams that have got, so we'll start up the top. You got Storm. Whailonga can't start week in, week out when Pappy's healthy. You got Dane Laurie, who ran for 300 metres for the Panthers a couple of weeks ago when Dylan Edwards was out. The Sharks have got Kade Dykes, who fills in for Will Kennedy. The Dolphins obviously got Trey Fuller. The Roosters is a little bit different. They've got Joseph Manu and Joseph Suaalii that can play fullback when Teddy's not out.
What about Trey Fuller to a Roosters as backup as Teddy gets a bit older?
Yep, that could be a good spot for him.
No Manu, no Suaalii.
And then even next year with the, it looks like the Cowboys are probably not going to sign Chad Townsend moving forward. There has been chat. I've seen, we've got a massive fan base of Cowboys fans for whatever reason at levels, and we get a lot of texts messages about the Cowboys all the time, and people have thrown the question about maybe Drinky moving to 6 next year to accommodate if Townsend was to move on. You put Dearden at 7, put Drinkwater at 6, and then there's an opportunity for potentially Fuller to go up to North Queensland.
I like it. Let's quickly run through what's coming up on the show today before we dig back into that game last night. So we've got, from last night's game, Jeremy Marshall-King coming on a bit later in the show. That's going to be an awesome chat with him. We'll review this game, of course. Origin 2 teams and talking points still to come. UFC, very early tomorrow morning, our boy, Australian Rob Whittaker, will be fighting over in Saudi Arabia. So we're going to preview the UFC. A little bit of a US sports update. The NBA finals have been played and won. Bit of Euros, bit of Super Rugby, and much more. If you want to chat to us during the show, 1300 01 1170 is the number to do that. Or give us a text, as you always do, 0457 736 736. All right, we've spoken about the Dolphins and Trey Fuller. Let's chat Storm, because they're kind of sneaking under the radar a bit, which they shouldn't be because they're sitting atop the ladder, 26 points, the first team to 11 wins, a points differential of 103, which is the third best in the comp. The Storm, they are the real deal, Scope. They are.
Yep.
But can they win the comp?
See, I had my concerns with the Storm just because I thought at the start of the year, despite all the players lost, I still thought Penrith and Broncos clearly had the better squads or better star players at positions. I think the Munster and Pappenhausen injury this year has been a blessing in disguise. If they are both to be fully fit at the back end of the season, because they can't win it without Munster and Pappy at fullback and 5'8" respectively, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just like most teams can't without.
Can they win without any one of those 4 stars in their spine?
Maybe Pappy. Maybe.
Okay. So they need at least 3 of the 4 to win a comp.
Yeah, just because, and that's only because they've already played so much footy over the last couple of years without Pappy.
Yeah.
And it's sort of circling back to my point, is which I think they've obviously unearthed Sua Whailonga, who is going to be a proper X factor. You've seen he nearly just took it to the house on that obstruction right at the end on Jerome Hughes. That's just things that he can do to break open a game. And if he was to come off the bench, whilst also carrying a guy like Tyrone Wishart, who has, during this period, just gained so much confidence, and he is your perfect 14. He can play now 6, 7. They've put him at fullback before. They put Wishy on the wing sometimes.
Yeah.
He wouldn't look out of place playing 13 if they needed to.
9.
So with, obviously, 9. Wishy will be their 14. I think they've got enough power and they've got enough toilers through the middle that can play big minutes, like Liero, King, Welsh. All these guys can play big minutes. So then you've got Big Nous on the bench with him as well. He's your X factor, big bopper. And then you can even keep Sua Whailonga on the 17, in my opinion. So you have 2 forwards, Wishart and Whailonga, in their best 17. Very dangerous because they can cover everything. And in this day and age, you look at what happened last night with the Dolphins losing Bostock and how how much that affects the rotation of the team and players playing out of position. If you can afford to have a versatile bench like that for the Melbourne Storm, you are very dangerous by the time it gets to finals time.
Let's have a listen to what Craig Bellamy had to say about the Storm's performance last night.
Straight probably before that, I thought we had some chances, to sort of finish the game, but we didn't quite. And like that last one when we got the ball stripped, that wasn't great. We didn't handle that too well. We just need to get a tight grip and get to the ground really. But I think we played some good footy. As I said, during the week, the Dolphins are a team that don't beat themselves. So we knew it was going to be a tough game, tough ask, and we're happy with our result. But like I say, there's just some things throughout the 80 minutes that we've been doing that we haven't been consistent with, and while we got consistent with a couple of things that getting scored against us.
The comp at the moment, Scope, seems pretty close. People are talking about this being a very winnable comp. However, I think there's 2, potentially 3 sleeping giants in the Storm.
Yep.
Haven't played with their big 4 all at once. Maybe they've done it once or twice all season. They're a different side if they've got their big 4 all playing together.
I think at the start of the year, mate, there was some stat about them
They've barely ever played
for
together.
a couple of years now. Yeah.
The Panthers, they're just chugging along with no Nathan Cleary.
Yeah.
So they've got another level. And then I'm trying to think how many games the Broncos would have struggled together with their big 3 of Mam, Reynolds and Walsh. I think once those 3 clubs get those players back, they may gap the others.
Yeah, I'm with you with the Broncos. They got to find a way to get in the top 4 without Reece Walsh and potentially Reynolds, because history says, they might go on a late run, but it makes it too hard when you've got to play that extra finals game and potentially end up on the same, or end up having to play both the Storm and the Panthers if you indeed do think they are the top 2 teams in the top 4 at the moment. But there are going to be some teams that are going to make it really hard. I think Cowboys are a really tricky team moving forward. They had their first bye of the 3 this week, so they're going to be really fresh. And just like last year, a lot of their Queensland players who weren't playing all that great started to play really well after the winning Origin series, because they've been very up and down, very hard to read. I think for me, still they're the team that I think outside of the main teams that a lot of people are talking about can cause some dramas. The Roosters are sitting in 5th. Again, they get in they've got the star power. They've also got some added motivation with a couple of senior players that have been great servants of the club for a long time, and Jared Rory-Hargraves and Luke Keary moving on next year. So that's another added incentive. My only worry with them, and I keep saying this because I've said it for a while, in the last 5 years, they've only beat the Storm and the Panthers once combined. They just can't beat the Storm and the Panthers. So unless they find a way that somehow they don't run into them in big moments,
it's basically impossible, right?
And I've got criticised about this in the past with people like, they'll be sweet, it's new year or whatever. If it was just 2 years, sweet. It's been 5 years. It's been 5 years that they've only won one game. So it's not just a fluke. It's not just like a coincidence after a couple of years. Whatever their strategies or the game plans or the styles of teams, some teams just don't match up with different playing groups, and it is what it is. So if they do avoid them and they end up on the side of potentially playing like a Broncos, Sharks, Dolphins, whatever, 100%. You could see them in the grand final, the Roosters, for sure, because they've got the talent.
One other talking point I wanted to hit you with out of last night. I sent you the clip this morning on Instagram. There's a bit of a flashpoint during the game. Tavita Pengai Jr. rushes out of the line and puts a big hit on Trent Liero.
Yep.
Storm players rush in, which essentially causes the play to break down. The referee blows the whistle as the players run in to denote a penalty. I don't think he knows at the time what he's giving a penalty for. Play breaks down because Storm players rush in. We saw last weekend Latrell Mitchell, 3rd man in, got 10 in the bin straight away. We saw the week before Chanel Harris-Tavita got 10 in the bin for coming in and throwing the ball, lobbing the ball at Chad Townsend, who also got 10 in the bin because who knows. Storm players rush in because they think it's a foul play. Replay goes up. Tavita's hit him clean hit.
Yep.
On review, they see that he's a bit offside, so the ref says offside penalty to the Storm. Why? Why was that not a penalty to the Dolphins for the Storm rushing in, third man in, for no reason and breaking down play?
And why wasn't Garlic sent to the sin bin? Just like in the past, and I'm glad you brought this up because again, it's I've been a Latrell Mitchell supporter over the years, right? There's some things where for sure he brings some stuff on him, and then there are other times where I'm like confused. Like last week, he come in for a bit of push and shove on Ricky, but it wasn't over the top. If anything, it was definitely less than what Garlic did.
And it was more warranted because Ricky had hit Murray in the head.
Correct.
And taken him off the ball.
And it's not just the Latrell incident, but you're right. I'm glad you brought up a few different incidents. Like Reed Marnie's done it before.
Yeah.
The Chanel Harris-Tavita one was awful. How those two got sent off in that specific incident a couple of weeks ago as well. But it should have been, if judging what's happened in the last month, Garlic should have gone for 10 and it should have been a penalty to the Dolphins overruled, in my opinion.
And I think in that scenario, they've gone, TPJ has whacked someone. He's whacked him so hard that I'm assuming it's foul play and I'm blowing my whistle. Yep. I don't know why I'm blowing my whistle, but I'm blowing it. And then on review, they go, oh, no, yeah, you were offside. Lucky for him that TPJ was offside because I think he was blowing a penalty for the hit just being too hard.
Yes, I agree with you there. He was definitely offside. He was about a metre offside. And I love the restraint that Tavita showed as well because he hit him clean. He knew he's in the right.
I'm surprised he stayed restrained.
He was good, Like, I guess he would have gone into this game with a whole heap of anxiety, a whole lot of pressure. They're in it. It's going to be a work in progress with him for sure. They've created this really good culture up there, and it's about he's always been a big personality. He has to really buy into what they're doing at the Dolphins because they do have a team. I noticed a few things that I'm like, all right, it's gonna take him a couple of weeks. One is conditioning. You can see that he needs to work on his conditioning.
Yep.
That's going to take 3 weeks. You can get game fit in 3 weeks, but it's if you're losing games, how long you end up lasting is determined by obviously the coach. Felt like he just got in the way a little bit. They were trying to create some things. They do a really good one. An underrated part of what middles do in the modern day game, and this is why the Dolphins have done really well with senior players who know exactly what their role is getting to the right spots on the field. So you're able to have some of the plays that you see would not eventuate if a player didn't get to the exact point. Now, you've got a license to play footy if something does, like you've got an opportunity, you play it. But I just seen a couple of instances where Tavita maybe had a little tip on, had an offload. It threw the halves off a little bit because they weren't at the spot that they wanted for that particular play. So that's going to take him a couple of weeks. But on the hit, clean. In my opinion, Garlic should have got sent for 10 in the bin, and it should have been a penalty to the Dolphins.
I agree.